Greetings to all. This is the DGBA Speed Boost Season 16 Power Rankings, post-draft Power Rankings, and I am Aggronauts, and today with me we have Vini and brotherquang. Please say hello.
Hello.
Okay, brotherquang is currently occupied, so he will not be speaking until later. But we will move. We'll move quickly on to the PRs. First of all, we have a quote for all. It is by the great William Shakespeare, an English playwright, and he said, "Brevity is the soul of wit." And this is something that we will be keeping true to. It will be short and sweet, but the analysis will be very good, I'm sure. Anyway, first up and the 16th spot. We go to the 16th slide. We have Gohan and the Philadelphia Pheromosa. He has drafted Palafin, Ursaluna, Iron Jugulis, Clodsai, Cleavor, Wochian, Gudra Hizui, Ceruledge, Mousehold, Toadscrawl, and Faragiraf. Those are some very difficult names to pronounce. But anyway.
So I guess I can start us off here.
Gohan. Yeah, if you would like to go ahead.
So this team, the reason why it's in last place is the fact that it's mono Numons. So the actual synergies and a lot of the util that this team has isn't that bad, and it works on a decent level, but just these Numons that he got drafted are a lot weaker than a lot of a lot of the other people's teams, just looking purely like base stat wise. And I think it could lead this team to struggle unless he pulls off some very niche strategies.
Yeah, he's obviously limited himself by drafting only new Pokemon, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but it definitely has some holes in it because of that. Having said that, I like Palafin. I think it's really underrated Pokemon. We haven't actually seen it been used very well by anybody yet in week 1 of DGBA, but hopefully that gets changed. I do think it could have been supported a bit better, maybe by an electric type, which can punish the water types that Palafin struggles with, quote unquote.
Yeah,
but he does have the Paradox Hydra, which is good for grass types, I guess, and just a strong attacker that can take on some of Palafin's weaknesses, but I think it could have been supported a bit more.
Yes, I agree. I think he does have some pretty solid ways. He has a lot of big hitters, and he has some pretty solid ways to bring them in with his momentum, and I think he should hopefully be able to offensively keep up. The issue is, as well as speed, is pretty poor. He has some priority options with the Palafin Ceruledge mostly, and he has some decent Scarfers as well, but I think if this team falls behind, it's going to struggle a lot to get back into a game.
I agree. He's got decent enough hazards and removal, which some other teams further on do not have. So you've got that going for you at least. Yeah, other than that, we can move on to number 15.
Coming in at number 15, we have Spoink and the Des Moines Delibirds. So Spoink has Dragapult, Iron Treads, Chi-Yu, Screamtail, Iron Thorns, Breloom, Kingambit, Ursaring, Houndstone, Braviary, Alamomola. And I will say to Spoink that we still found a way to curse you, even though you did not get your number 15 draft spot. And then Aggro, do you want to start off on this team?
Yeah, so it is a classic Spoink-esque draft, which never makes any sense to me, which isn't a good thing, I guess. He's got lots of good Pokemon on the team, like Dragapult's a very good Pokemon, Iron Treads, Chi-Yu, Screamtail I think is very underrated. Iron Thorns he's kind of there.
He's a funny guy.
I don't like him that much, but and then Kingambit's a pretty good Pokemon as well. And he's got the classic Spoink Braviary in the back. I just feel like this team doesn't gel together very well, as it were. It's got decent momentum. Dragapult can, and I feel like at least last generation, Dragapult's best role was as an enabler for other Pokemon.
Yeah, I think.
And here you're only really enabling like Chi-Yu, maybe. I don't think Chi-Yu needs Dragapult to enable it in a sense.
I was gonna say as well.
So maybe it's wasted.
Bolt struggles a lot with the fairies, and here with him having a single fairy resist, he doesn't have a ton of options to come in on fairies. Although he can bring in, I do think him bringing in Chi-Yu is still good, and it just hits. I think there's definitely some options there. Where I think this team could come a bit short. I think speed-wise, it isn't the best. Like he does have Screamtail Treads below Bolt, but those are Mons that want to run bulk a lot, and they're not like super reliable Revenger's speed, so he's going to be reliant on Pult a ton, because I think Chiyu's going to be the breaker here, even though he has a ton of offensive options.
Yeah, I think Screamtail's like 1 speed or something crazy like that,
Yeah,
but you're never... I mean, you shouldn't be running max speed Screamtail, I'd hope.
Yeah, I think
Maybe you can, who knows, but yeah.
What Aggro touched on, I think this team is just... It's a Spoink team. It's very weird. The cohesion, I think, after the top fewer picks kind of fell off, and I just don't see the point, but I'm sure Spoink will make it clear what this team is supposed to do throughout the season.
Yeah, and I do want to note that Dragapult is it can't Terra, so that's why it's not the Terra user. So that's why he's made Chiyu and Iron Thorns the Terra users. I think Chiyu Terra is obviously going to be very, very difficult to deal with. Iron Thorns is, well, I guess it just makes the Pokemon better. Dragon Dance with a booster energy, and
yeah,
Terra, I guess, can do some things.
Its base typing is weak to a lot of moves, and it can also just overload with a strong physical attack, and it can break past a lot of stuff after a DD. It gets the booster option as well. And then Chiyu also, in the same sense, just gets to overload. It can overload with a stab, it can remove a weakness. It's solid Terra users, in my opinion.
I don't know. I don't understand why he drafted Houndstone and a Loma Mola, really. But I mean, I guess a Loma Mola is his fire resist, but Houndstone, I guess he's because the move Last Respects is banned as well. So I guess it's a fluffy ghost type.
He's a funny guy.
Good defense, I guess. I don't know. Spoink will know the answers. Anyway, I think we should move on to number 14, who is Glop, and the Glop is Plop. Very cool name. His team is Enamorous, Incarnate, Iron Hands, Scissor, Rillaboom, Lycanroc Dusk, Gastrodon, Moltres Galar, Cresselia, Overquill, Bravery Hizui, and Typhlosion Hizui. Would you like to comment on this, Vini?
Sure. So the first thing I noticed was his Terra users. I'm not a very big fan of them. I think specifically the Lycanroc, I think should 100% Enamorous should be one of the users. I think Cresselia is actually like a niche option because this team did have a lot of good other potential users like Thithor, Gmolt, etc. But I think that Enamorous 100% should have been one of those users, and I think even though he did Terra something like Crest, that one actually has potential to have some niche options, especially with Levitate Terra. It's really bulky, really hard to kill. Change it to like a Steel type. And then the other thing...
Yeah, Steel and Poison I think could be good Terras for Crest.
His speed on this team is kind of weird. I think he has some decent options, like the Enamorous Lycanroc up top. He has some decent Prio to Revenge. Like Rilla's a pretty good Scarfer in my opinion, with it losing Glide and Prio, but the top end speed on this team is not the best still.
Yeah, it is definitely it's one of the slower teams out of in speed boost, considering a lot of the new Paradox Mons got crazy speed stats. There's a lot of teams with decent speed. Yeah, I do agree on the Terras. I think, I mean, I can understand why he terred Cresselia. Lycanroc, I know in his first game he terred into a Dragon type and clicked like Outrage with it, which I guess is a strong with Tough Claws, but I really do think it's a bit of a wasted slot on the dog.
I remember that game as well. I don't think it did too much. Like, it got a kill and then it was able to be countered from there. I think maybe his idea was to use Trailblaze shenanigans and get himself into positions where he could just Terra into a type and just coverage spam and kill everything. But I don't know how often that's going to happen.
Yeah. This team does have, I do like the hazards on this team. Gastro's got spikes and stealth rocks now, I think. And Overquill gets T-spikes and spikes, I'm pretty sure. Obviously Lycanroc gets rocks, but you shouldn't really, well, you can run that, I guess.
Yeah, I like the type synergies here. You have like the classic Scizor Gastrodon with the Rillaboom in there, and you have like good momentum as well on this team to bring in more offensive mons. I think overall that part of the team I think is pretty solid.
Yeah, it's definitely got a decent defensive backbone, but I think as we progress, you'll see that there's other teams with definitely have stronger offense, like a lot stronger offense, which is supported just as well by the defense. I mean, Iron Hands is a good Pokemon. Round 2 is probably a bit early to take it. You could have got something stronger to pair with a Enamorous.
Anyways, I think that about
Yeah,
covers
he's got three flying types, so he's the bird keeper Glop.
That is a good
But yeah,
point.
we should move on. We can move on to
Number 13, Blitz. So Blitz.
Yippee!
Blitz has Iron Valiant, Gengar, Greninja, Heatran, Toxapex, Rotomo, Sylveon, Umbreon, Staraptor, Chansey, Heracross. So I'm actually going to start here. I think this team started off insanely well with Valiant, Gengar, Gren, like Tram, and then some decent pieces after there. But I think I think Blitz kind of scuffed this one. He left his ground type at home, which leaves him pretty vulnerable to electric, having Rotomo. Also pretty weak. The flying types only with the T-Tran, and I think that carries into his Terra users, which it was the Heatran. And when the Heatran is so key for this flying weakness, and it's your Terra user, you can't use it freely. You can't use it to check a lot of the other stuff, like that electric weakness, and I think it's going to cause a lot of problems. Personally.
yeah. I think the no ground type is quite a big issue. That's something I would want to fix with trades of some sort. I know Rotomo 4 times resists, but especially with Terra, there's a few electric Terra Pokemon. I think there's a Terra Regieleki, obviously. There's a Terra Iron Thorns that we just saw. There's 2 Terra Thunderuses, so those Pokemon will see this team and they could just raw Terra Electric and get adaptability boost on their electric moves and be pretty okay.
Because then they can Volt Switch out on the special bulk, and then bring in something else to go deal with those. I think like that at the bottom end there was a pretty large overload with the Sylveon, Umbreon, Chansey. I don't think he needs all of those Mons. I think maybe one of them is fine, and then if you fit a ground type in there, you get your Stealth Rocks, you get a remover, which this team does not have. You could potentially have a very good team. I think it's very close to being a very good team.
What ground type?
Yeah, I don't understand Chansey's role.
Now what this team did well, I think, like we said, this top part is really insane. He has Valiant, Gengar, Gren, Heatran, so he has good offensive hazard support to support this insane offensive core, which just clicks buttons. And he has some solid momentum within the other pieces to support them, bring them in. And it's just in those cracks where it falls through. Do you have anything else to add, Egg?
Yeah. And again, Iron Valiant cannot terrestrialize as well, so that's why it's not the Terra Pokemon. And for clarity, it's a Protean Greninja as well.
We'll say, yeah, you did miss the Palafin on the very first one, but I'll give you some slack.
Oh, that is true. Mr. Palafin, he cannot terrestrialize.
I think
yeah, I mean, if with the ground weakness patched up and removal patched up, I think this team can definitely be a lot stronger. But yeah. If we move on to the next slide, we actually have another quote by William Shakespeare.
Can I read it? Can I please read it?
You can, Quang. Please do.
Better a witty fool than a foolish wit. Tupac. William Shakespeare.
Can you explain that quotation to us, Brother Quang?
So we see the brevity in Shakespeare's quote there. He's said very powerful words in very short sentences, which is what we're trying to emulate here. But in any case, this quote serves as a way to round off the first, how many teams was that? 4 teams that we just spoke about. The next 3 teams that we're going to speak about are obviously more highly ranked, and they're slightly different to the last teams we saw. So they're in a different category of their own. And first of all, we have in the number 12 spot we have Ethan or Redithan, Ethab, and his Nashville Predators, and he's drafted Goldengo, Tinglu, Slitherwing, Torkoal, Espathra, Noivern, Vaporeon, Diancie, Toxtricity, Arboliver, and Scovillain.
Oh, I think I'll let you start off on this one, Aggro, because you were a big fan of this team.
I really like the first 3 picks. Like I think Goldengo, Tinglu, Goldengo obviously with its ability means that you can't defog on it, and you can't because it's a ghost type, you can't rapid spin on it. So Tinglu, which gets Stealth Rocks and Spikes is a really good partner for it. And obviously, Ghost Steel and Ground Arc have synergy in the types they resist and the types they're strong against. And then pairing that with a Slitherwing, which is the fighting bug Volcarona, I think is really strong. Slitherwing can U-turn on dark types that Goldengo doesn't like. It can bring in Tinglu and get Spikes up and Stealth Rocks up pretty freely. So I really like the top 3. And then Ethan's paired it with a Sun team, a Sun core of Torkoal, which power-ups Slitherwing through its ability. And then he's also got a big Scope villain in the back, which I think is really... I think it's a really nice pick. A Fire Grass type in Sun's gonna be doing some damage. Because there's a bit of anti-synergy with Noivern in Sun, because I think Hurricane loses accuracy in Sun, but...
It does, yes. So I guess
other than that, he's drafted... Yeah.
I can start to get into some of the weaknesses here. So it's a lot of this filler that isn't that great with this team. So the big thing I noticed first up was the speed I didn't really like. You have Noivern and Espathra, and with Espathra being Terra, it's probably going to want to be more of a cleaner role here, so Noivern's your main Revenger, and you have like some options with the Slitherwing. And then other than that, I think it's going to be forced into Scarfers, because I don't think the Sun is going to be a consistent bring when you have to bring most of these other mons more than the Scovillain, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's fair enough. This team noticeably only has one physical attacker as well. Scovillain can be physical, Toxtricity can be physical, but Slitherwing's are really only...
Yeah, the major physical threat and breaker.
Yeah,
Tinglu does have some pretty crazy damage output, and it also just doesn't take damage in general. But
yeah,
I don't think you want to be relying fully on a Tinglu for that, outside of your Slitherwing.
Yeah, I do like the Terra Tinglu. I think that's quite a smart idea, because it means you can pretty much tear into a type that beats whatever. Like Fairy's a good Terra for it, even Pure Ground, Steel. There's lots of types that it can tear into that can do well.
Yeah, I'm a big
fan. Yeah,
I'm a big fan of the Espathra Terra. I think Espathra can clean when this team is so good at chipping, and it's just gonna momentum spam on teams, spike stack. It's got a lot of bulk to be hard to deal with. I think that the Espathra can just come in late once everything's chipped down and Terra up, so it can't be revenged by Prio and just clean. I think it has a lot of potential here.
I'm interested to see how it functions in draft leagues. I don't know.
I agree.
How well one can prep for it if you've not got the right tools.
I do know it is a menace on the ladder.
It is indeed. Also, I do want to mention Toxtricity. Ethan drafted it in his first season of DGBA, and I think he got the kill leader. So it's maybe back with a vengeance, back to save the draft. But anyway, I think we should move on to number 11.
Okay, so in number 11 we have Pyronox, and the team that he has drafted is Spectrier, G-King, Meowscarada, Dugtrio, Zapdos Galar, Garganackle, Cyclizar, Rotom Heat, Glastrier, Gyarados, and Chestnut. So, I know Quang is a very large fan of this team.
Let me talk. Okay, am I allowed to say the nasty little F word?
It's your video. You're the one making the video.
Okay. This team fucks. This team fucks. Everything on this team is awesome. The Spectre is broken. G-King got better. Meowscarada is a beast. I don't really vibe with the Dugtrio, I gotta be honest. Zapdos Galar, great with the horse because you kill all those nasty normals and nasty darks. Garganackle is a pain in my nuts. Cyclizar, kind of mid on this team, not gonna lie. I don't really know why he took it. But you know what? If you want removal and a knocker and a pivot and a regen with the Torn speed, it's not a bad option. Rotom Heat, ground immunity. Glastrier, beast. Ownage, Epic Mon. Gyarados, a bit weird that it wasn't one of the Terra choices. I think Gyarados is really good with Terra, but it's still awesome this gen. Chestnut, only flop. Masterful team.
I'll go from that.
That was some crazy analysis there.
I think it was some great analysis. I personally will first off dispute. I think Chestnut is not a flop. It actually is not that bad now with a body press.
I think it's friggin' crap.
Anyways, I'll start on with some of the weaker points of this team. So, a lot of that comes in with typing problems. This team, most notably, does not have a Dragon Resist or Immunity. And I think it does have the Terra Glastrier, so that might have to be Terroring into a Steel type quite often here, because this team is also pretty weak to Psychic, with it only having Meowscarada, which doesn't want to switch in on them. I think there's some potential maybe with the Dugtrio to drop a lot of these problematic mons for this team, but I think it's just got some glaring weaknesses, and especially when the Terra users are not the strongest Pokemon, it's not the best.
Yeah, I like the team's got decent enough hazards. It's got Dugtrio, Meowscarada gets spikes and T-spikes, and then the Salt guy, Garganacle's got rocks, and obviously Chestnut's got spikes. So that's really nice for Spectre. Yeah, G-King also got T-spikes, that's true. So Spectre is really well supported here.
Hold on.
I think
G-King got T-spikes?
Yes, it did get T-spikes.
It did.
So I was right. I was right.
Now.
It did get better.
It's not as good in this meta, but yeah, it's got better moveset now. But yeah, I think this team...
and then Cyclizar is his only removal. But if you're spike stacking, then I guess it's not the biggest problem in the world.
I think most of the time this team isn't going to be slowing down to remove. It can run some boots on here, and it's just going to offensively stack the other team, chip them down, momentum spam them, maybe trap some kills, and then get one of its many wing guns into position to win. And I think that's where this team is going to show to be truly good.
Yeah, I do also like that he's got Trick Room with Glastrier. I think that helps it a lot than just having a raw.
That did come into play week 1, where he got 3 kills with Glastrier off of G-King. And now with the Chilly Reception from G-King, it can set the TR Chilly Reception into Glastrier, and Glastrier is insanely hard to kill with snow boosts.
Yeah, it gets the defense boost. That's true. Okay, so let's move on to the 10th team, where we have Luffy and his Straw Hat Rayquazas. He's drafted Orlando T, Annihilate, Weavile, Slowking, Klefki, Cetitan, Azelf, Tauros Fire type, the Dunsparce, Brute, Bonnet, and a Muck. This team, we had a bit of trouble trying to rank it. It kept going up and down. I think it's a pretty decent team overall. There's some obvious things Luffy's tried to draft. So Klefki's got good screen support for Annihilate, which is really nice, and then he's got Slowking with Cetitan. Slowking can Chilly Reception, which is like the new this new momentum move, and set up Snow for a Slash Rush. I think it's got Slash Rush, the Cetitan, which is a pretty nice core.
It's kind of like a fast Glastrier.
Yeah. And he's got Lando Weavile, which is a proven core, but of old gens, and both those Pokemon have lost a little bit. Lando, obviously, it's lost some of its defensive capabilities, so having it be your Terra user, I think it helps it stay offensive. Terra Annihilate's always going to be good. You can Terra into something to resist your weaknesses, and when you've got Klefki screen support, I think you can quite easily start setting up and being a problem to everyone.
Yeah, I think this team is quite solid. I think it's got solid momentum, which with a lot of good bulk that allows it to play defensively and buy time for it to get something like the Annihilate, which I think is one of this team's primary win cons, to get into position to win a game off of Rage Fist Terra. And it's just going to chip stuff down with its hazards, whether it's the Weavile. It's just overall, I think it's plays to its win con pretty well. I think one of the weaknesses
I like the. Oh, sorry.
Because I think it crutches really hard on Slowking to enable this team. It really needs the fat mon that switches in to certain typings, and Chilly Reception's out, gets the momentum, brings in some of these faster mons that can't switch in. And then I was going to add as well, I think the special offensive presence on this team is not the best. It relies a lot on Azelf, which is not the best this gen. Has some potential still. And then lastly, the fairies could be kind of annoying. Put a lot of pressure on Klefki here because you're not going to be wanting to bring Muck a lot. But some Terra typings could alleviate that. And Egger, you can go.
Yeah, I was going to say, I do like the last 4 Pokemon he drafted. I think they do have a place on the team. Tauros Blaze, I think Firefighting has got good. It's just got good resistances, especially to like not the common, but Chiampao and Chiyu, the 2 dark legendaries. So that's a nice soft check to them. And then the Dunsparce is very bulky normal type. So that's good for the ghosts. And then Brute Bonnet, I think, is kind of slept on. It's kind of like Wo-Chien. They're brothers in arms, both being grass dark types. But it hits surprisingly hard. It's got very good attack. And it's very bulky as well. So I'm interested to see how he uses it.
Yeah, I agree.
And then Muck is Muck. It's always going to do something every now and then.
I'm not as big of a fan of the Muck, but I think especially the Tauros and the Dunsparce are actually going to be pretty solid in this meta at doing what they need to do for this team. And I think this team has a lot of options, which is really good.
Yeah. Okay, so we can move on to our next slide, which is another quote. Who would like to read out this quote?
I can read out this one.
Can you?
I'll show you right now, Brother Quang. So this quotation says, "Have more than you show, speak less than you know," by William Shakespeare. I'm not gonna explain
And again,
that.
this quote speaks volumes to all. Very important to have more than you show and speak less than you know.
I think you are all very intellectual individuals in Speed Boost, so you will understand this quotation.
They're not intellectuals, they play Pokemon.
This groups into our next category, which is these the next four teams before we get into the top teams, which are teams that we think have a lot of potential that are just outside the top teams of the league. And then we can move on to number 9. And number 9, we have Rai. So Rai has drafted Zamazenta Crowned, Thundurus Therian, Glimora, Donphan, Basculegion, Haxorus, Florges, Lokick, Samurott Hisui, Orcorio, and Dragalge. And then do you want to start us off?
Yeah, so yes, I will start us off. I will start it off by saying Zamazenta cannot use Iron Defense, and it cannot terrestrialize as well. But it can use Body Press, and you move with it, which has some synergy with its its ability that boosts its defense by one stage once a battle. So that's a nice buff for Zamazenta. He's paired it with a Thundi T, which I think is a pretty solid duo, especially with the Terra Thundi T. So it's got many types that it wants to tear into, and it can exploit that quite nicely, especially with its Vault Absorb ability, which I think is something that people haven't caught on to quite yet.
Well,
I think tearing into a type and then having random electric immunity is pretty nice.
Yeah, I was going to say, Rai utilized that week 1 to counter an Aleki with changing it to the Terra type that he resists, because Aleki was going to run Terra Ice for the Thundi. And I think it has some options for sure. And on top of being able to offensively Terra for it with Nasty Claw and its really good breaking ability. Solid speed tier.
I like it. I like Glimora as well, with Zamazenta specifically. Having spikes or T-spikes, or even rocks as well, just hazards in general, can really help wear down Zamazenta's checks, which is nice for it. And Glimora can get heads up quite reliably. It's not the bulkiest, but because of its ability, it gets free toxic spikes, which you can abuse on common moves like U-turn and whatever physical moves that it resists.
Yeah, this team has really great hazard play with the Donphan coming in after with one of the best removers in the meta and great util in general, and then Samurot's also kind of a sleeper hazard option with this Ceaseless Edge. And I just think in general the hazards go really well with this team, with a lot of these, like, you can call them more niche threats, but they all just want some of their checks chipped down. For example, low kicks, Haxorus, they want to come in, they want to click their moves, chip the stuff down, switch out, and wait till they can come back in and win. And I think this team enables that playstyle really well.
Yeah, I do think this draft would have appreciated some more speed. It's only got Zama and Thundi over 100, I believe, which is not the greatest. You're gonna have to rely on either Scarfers or Dragon Dancing with Haxorus for speed. I mean, Loki's got priority. Orcorio's got Quiver
This team
Dance,
does have a good amount of priority to make up for that between the low kick, Samurott, Haxorus, etc.
Let's have a look. I really do like Oricorio as well with Quiver Dance. I think not many people know about the power this little bird has.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see how that gets used. It is. You can change it into any type you want as well. It's crazy. Not any type, 4 types. Very good pocket monster.
Yeah, I think in general this is like starting to get into the really like the more solid teams, and I think this team is going to be really good, and I think Rai is going to be able to use it well.
I will say one more thing quickly. I think it could do with a better fairy resist, considering your steel type doesn't resist fairy. You've only got Glimora naturally, and I guess Oricorio, which doesn't really count. So I mean, you could use that to your advantage. You could bait people with Haxorus and make it into a steel type, I guess, instead. But I think having another fairy resist would be ideal with just Glimora.
I think that about covers it.
But yeah, we can move on. Pardon, what covers it? Sorry.
That about covers it.
Oh right, yeah.
Did you forget
okay,
what number
we can move
it was?
on to. No. We can move on to number 8, and High Jump Sean with his Long Beach Ninkada, and he's drafted Roaring Moon, Baxcalibur, Azumarill, Sandy Shocks, Decidueye, Slowbro Galar, Lucario, Harlucha, Moltres, Meloetta, and Lycanroc Midnight form.
So I guess I can start with this team.
Yeah, sure.
I think this team has pretty great offense. It's got so many different threats, so many different win cons, just starting from the top 3, and then you have the Lucario, even potential Halucha stuff if you're not using it already for like Defog, Mold Breaker. And I think that this team has some solid pivots and like defensive pieces like the G-Burrow, the Moltres, the Decidueye to facilitate that, even the Sandy Shocks. And I think that this team is going to be able to keep up momentum and facilitate its win cons pretty well.
Yeah, so obviously he's gone for Dragon Spam, which is, I think, is smart because there aren't very many good Steel types and good Fairy types. So being able to click Dragon moves freely, which is going to be quite good. Well, we've already seen that some teams don't have Dragon Resists full stop or Dragon Immunity, so that's already something going for this team. The hazards aren't great on this team. I think it's just Sandy Shocks and Lycanroc. I mean, I assume Sandy Shocks comes to most games, so you can get rocks up.
Yes.
Or I think you get spikes as well. You can get rocks and spikes
as well,
up
yes.
decently well. Yeah.
I think Sandy Shocks has a lot of pressure here as well, because it's the primary flying resist. Again, the whole Zama typing thing as your steal. So Sandy Shocks has a lot of pressure here to enable this team offensively, which I think it should be able to fulfill, but it's just something that it's got a lot of pressure to do.
Yeah, I like the Terra users. Again, Roaring Moon can't terrestrialize or use booster energy for that matter, but Terra Baxcalibur is really strong. You can Terra into one of your stabs, boost your Ice Shard or your Dragon Stab, or Terra into Steel and Ground are quite good for it. And it's a Dragon Dancer as well, so it can boost its speed up. And Lucario is like a budget Dragonite, I guess. Yeah. It's got Swords Dance with E-Speed, so you can become an E-Killer.
We even saw Aleki doing E-Killer in general, especially when this team can chip down those Steel types very well. It's definitely a potential late game win con.
Yeah. I like the Decidueye pick as well. It's one of the few Pokemon that retain Roost and Defog this generation, so it's got reliable recovery and it can remove hazards, which is pretty valuable in this matter, I think. And it just pairs well defensively with Slowbro, Azumarill, and Moltres, which is quite nice. I'm not sure why he drafted Meloetta, but it seems to have some sort of purpose. I guess it's a normal type.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's honestly pretty viable in this meta with there not being as much knockoff, and it takes pressure off of Moon to check some of those ghost types that this team might struggle with a bit, but otherwise. So I think it's not a bad pick.
I can see that being fine.
Anyways, I think
and then
ready to move on.
Yeah, we can move on.
Number 7, we have Base Tech, or Techno, and he started off with Mew, and then Great Tusk, Volcarona, Grimmsnarl, Hisubi Zoroark, Hisubi Lilligant, Lycanroc Base Form, Kilowattrel, Grafai, Cloyster, and Orthworm.
Hello? Hello.
Are we getting infiltrated on our PRs?
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
You're
We're getting
infiltrating our PRs.
Alright, what team are we looking at? Let us give a quick preview.
Hello. Please welcome Killer ASCII and K Savage.
Hello, hello.
And we're
We're
looking,
looking
Whoa.
at Techno's
Base
team.
Techno's
Number 7.
Techno's team number 7. Alright, let me pull this up really quickly. Well, we'll give one PR and then go. So
Yeah,
we don't want to
we'll do
give
one
them
and
the
go.
Spotlight. We felt bad about not having Quick Feet this season, so, you know. Alright, Techno's team is, very much not finding. Where is it? Damn it.
I can read it out for you if you'd like as well.
Yeah, well, you probably already read out.
I did read it out right when you joined.
Did you?
Yes.
Oh yeah, you did.
We did. That is true.
Alright. Techno has. Yeah, alright. Well, I mean.
Actually,
looks
you
quite
didn't get
good
the whole
when you
way
have
through
that-
reading it.
I did.
Oh. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, actually, I did, because I heard the good fire and stuff. I mean, you got a great top 3 there, with Mew, Great Touch, Full Corona. Great top 4, Grimsnarl's sick, too. I'm just not sure what happened around the halfway point of this team, when you decided to get a Lycan Rock midday. And, again, with the Grafii. But, yeah, I don't know. Very good hazard
I
setting.
think they're vibing. They're doing something.
They're
Yeah.
vibing. There's
just-
the Electros, so I instantly like this team, actually.
I just have one thing to say about this team. If you're upset about your ranking, please DM Brandon LKR Moose 17 at #2958.
Hey, they
for
probably
any
had a different person DM.
Actually, you should DM me.
No,
Among
no,
Us
Brandon-
Blast.
Brandon-
Actually, I
Brandon's
agree.
a good
DM
part,
Quang,
yeah.
too.
DM me.
DM Quang, I agree. Especially if you have especially if you're upset with my opinion.
Especially if you're Pyronox, because I think your team should be number 1.
Well, you know what? I'm not giving an opinion on Pyronox's team.
Anyways,
So true.
I can
Did you
start
guys-
getting actually. Oh, I can start getting actually into this team. if you'd like.
Yeah, go for it. Please do.
Okay, so I think this team has a pretty solid playstyle
Yes.
that it's being enabled to do. So it's got a lot of good setup spam with the Mew, Volk, Lilligant, Clayster, etc. And it's got the screens Grimmsnarl to support that. It's got great hazard control with Great Tusk. And Zoroark as well is a pretty cool option with a lot of these mons to bait in the checks to other mons and chip them. And I think he's got some solid Terra users that he can use well to behind these screens, be very hard to take down, set up, etc. I think this team does have a lot of weird picks, like Grafii I think is really bad, but might have some niches like Anorok, etc. But I think that the top half of this team carries pretty hard with some of the more filler mons like Kilowattrel being solid and Clayster giving the team additional hazard options or another setup mon.
I would just like to note
Yeah,
that
I think Grafii, the only thing I can see it doing is prankster shenanigans because it's
Well,
not
it's
it's
weird
not
'cause
strong
you
enough
have-
to do unburdened things.
you have Grimmsnarl, and then you have Grimmsnarl at home with Grafii.
It can do some. It can be like super
Yeah.
fang. It can knock off. It can be like fast pivot. It's just
It gets encore as well. I mean, it stops opposing setup. I guess it can limit it at least,
Yeah, it's not completely useless.
which
just not
is
the
which is
best.
honestly fine. I don't think it's
Mhm.
horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do really like the screens with setup though. I like Lilligant and Volcarona, the two dancers of this team. I think they can do a lot of damage, especially both being one of them's Terra. So
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think
I really
maybe
do like that.
erroring the Mew would have been a better thing because I think Mew in this gen's lost a lot of its more defensive capabilities, and it's pushed into an offensive setup role. And when you have the mon has all those setup abilities, giving it Terra would have been really nice. So I'm not too sure how he plans to use Mew and if it's gonna get a full impact here, but I did see he Terra'd as Lilligant this week and it did win the game, so I think he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. And with that, I think we can move to number 6, which
Alright,
is
well-
Manat and his BBC Kings.
Before you move on, I would like to leave, so I would
Will
like to
you
say
be?
goodbye to everyone. Thank you for having me for the Speed Boost PRs. And if you have any issues with my opinion, please DM Brother Quang. Thank you.
Thank you
Goodbye,
for
everyone.
stopping by.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Okay, so number 6 with Manat and the BBC Kings. He's drafted Urshifu Rapid, Tornadus Therian, Hydreigon, Pelipper, Hatchery Namungus, Volcanion, Bronzong, Barrascuda, Pelisand, and Rotom Fan. And
Oh.
just for everyone to note, this is Manat and this is not the BB King himself, Zazo, Iron Flash Gaming. However, he has he has permission to use the BBC King's name, the franchise.
Yeah, probably the only way that we're ever going to get Zazo back in speed boost, because I don't think we will be putting stunts on there anytime soon to fulfill his requests for Zazo's end. Anyways,
That is true.
It is kind of weird seeing a Rain team be rated so highly, because normally they all suck, and Rain in general, not the best, but I think Rain this gen is actually pretty viable, and I think Manet's done a good job drafting around it. He has his primary threats with the Torn, Skuda, with the Pelipper to enable, and the Shifu, Volcanion. He's in general just looking to spam types here, spam water, and one of his Mons will get itself into a winning position. And we did see that this week with the Skuda one-shotting a Greninja through Terra, and I think Terra gives this kind of team a lot of options. And I think as well he got a lot of the util right here. He got the Hatterene and Moongus Bronzong, which I think are really like solid defensive pieces that you can play around. Give him good util, give him hazards, give him the magic bounce, give him speed control, momentum, all different kinds of things that I think pulls this team together.
Yeah. He did draft a Shifu Rapid round 1, which is, I think that at the time there were better picks, but it's not horrible. The team's still nicely rounded out. I like the Rotom fan at the end. I think the electric flying type it's definitely got some matchups it can come to where the rest of the team might not necessarily want to deal with those mons. And they want to say Hydreigon is the only ghost resist, which it might. I feel like there's a few ghost types with Terra that we've seen already, and those I'll just run a Terra Fairy move for you. So I'm not sure how viable that will be. But with a Rain team, you can always revenge with Barrascuda anyway, so it might not be the biggest problem in the world.
Yeah, I think a lot of the out of Rain Mons this team could have some trouble with speed and getting abused by certain types like Ghost, but at the end of the day, I think Manet will be able to revenge them through his Rain, through if he's running Scarfers, and he'll have options to get around them and then set up his win cons in the end. But
yeah, I mean he does pressure like all the water resistors very, very well, especially with Terra, Skuda. So it'll be very interesting to see how this type of team plays out, because I think the best gen for weather wasn't last gen, possibly 7 or 6 in draft at least. So
yeah, I remember seeing a lot of it in 6. 6 was where I saw a ton of weather. When you go before that,
yeah,
that's
6
when the most
had like the classic.
5 is the broken weather gen, because you have infinite weather and it's disgusting.
Yeah, I think 6 had like the infamous creation Rain team that everyone would run in draft tours. But yeah, anyway, we can move on to number 5, or actually into our next slide, which is another quote.
I want to read it.
And by William Shakespeare again. Please, Quang, please read him out.
Okay, first things first. I thought it was glisten, not glister, but okay. All that glisters is not gold. Often have you heard that told? William Shakespeare. AZ quotes.
I will say that all that glistens is not gold is Shrek, and Shrek said that first. So
Yeah.
In any case, this quote lets the remaining coaches know that even though they've been ranked highly, all that glisters is not gold, so they must be careful. Anyway, we move on to number 5. I believe Vini will introduce.
Yes, number 5, we have PZD and the Seattle Torpedoes with Champao, Dragonite, Thundurus, Hisubi Arcanine, Dondozo, Mesprit, Crocodile, Tauros, Paldea Aqua, Inteleon, Reverum, and Avalugg.
So these are again, I forgot to say this. These are the top 5 teams after this quote. So we thought these were noticeably different from the other teams below.
So I guess I can start off here. So I think PZZ's top 3 especially are really, really strong. Champao and Dragonite, especially together, they pressure like steals and certain defensive typings really hard and make room for one of them to win in the late game, whether it be E-Kill or D-Knight, just DD, Terra D-Knight, Champao with priority sucker. I think this team is going to overwhelm a lot of teams defensively, and he has another person with one of the Thundi Terras, which I think is another solid option. And then he got some solid filler pieces in there, like the Mesprit with the Healing Wish, U-turn, rocks, good momentum, good support for this team. I think the Crocodile, again, not bad, did lose knockoff, but I think a lot of these other pieces can facilitate this team pretty well and allow it to play how it wants to.
Yeah, I like the speed on this team. He's got a lot of decent options. He's got Chempao, Thunderous, and Teleon. They can all they're all very fast. And then it does drop a little bit, but I think the Chempao Thunderous is enough speed for any team because you'll be bringing those every single week, pretty much. I do like his. I like Arcanine Hizui. That thing seems really good on paper, even though it's a fire rock type, but it's got what's it called, Rock Head with Head Smash and Flare Blitz.
Yeah, well,
Heat Speed.
Wild Charge, it hits pretty hard.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be doing a lot of damage.
I think it will have its
and
matchups for sure.
Yeah, I think one thing that brings this team back a little bit is the removal. It is only poor Avalag at the end. He'll be spinning for his life, it appears, on this team. But I mean, you could probably get away with running boots on pretty much everything, but it does limit what Chempao, D-Knight, Thundy, and Arcanine can do a little bit.
For sure, they can get around it.
It's not the end of the world if they're boots.
Yeah,
it's not gonna
for sure
kill them that much. Yeah, and again, Tauros Aqua, like its fire type brother, it's got good, just very decent typing. Water, I think water fighting is a lot better than firefighting defensively, so it resists quite a lot of top threats, which is nice. And it's nice to see that paired with Agent Leon as well.
I'm kind of confused why he has both Tauros Aqua and Dondozo, because I feel like they're the kind of ones that check a lot of those like more top tier like threats with the dual stab combos and the ruins, but. I think it's not too bad, and then
it seems like he's targeting some certain Pokemon with getting double.
I think that the fairies could be slightly annoying for this team, with the Arcanine Reverum both being super weak to ground, and also they're not going to want to be brought every week, especially Reverum. Although we did see it sweep this week in Swarm, but I think he can potentially alleviate that with his Terra on D-Knight or Thundy, being able to Terra into Poison, Steel, Fire potentially.
Yeah. Yeah, and to an extent, they can be dealt with by Mesprit Sword. Well, actually, not really. I mean, Mesprit can slow them down a bit, I guess, but Fairy is definitely annoying. You just have to kill them before they do damage to you, which this team can definitely do. So, not the end of the world.
Would we like to go on to number 4?
Yes, I think we can. Yes, we can move on to number 4, and Troy with his Orlando Meowstic. He has drafted a Shifu single, Landorus Incarnate, Cinderace, Gothitelle, Quagsire, Makalola, Tinkaton, Magnezone, Blissey, Big Clorf, and Lurantis.
I think that
this team
it's very funny in my opinion. I mean, the top 4 especially, and then even some of the mons that follow, like the next 3 or so, are really good, but the top 4 is just disgusting, with Urshifu, Lando, Cinderace, all mons that just hit like trucks, and they have momentum. They can bring in the Terragoth, and if there's a mon that he wants removed, Terragoth removes it. You have to play really carefully around that mon with Terra now. And then he has the Quag solid backbone next to the Muck with the hazards. It has stealth, rocks, and spikes now, which is great. Some anti-setup for him, and he's got knockoff support coming in as well there with the Tinkaton Muck. Stealth rocks from the Tinkaton as well. I think those mons support this upper tier core really well.
Yeah, and you can compare this team with PZZ's team, the top 3 to this top 3. I think this top 3 is a lot. I mean, they're both incredible, but this one I think edges it out slightly, because it's a Libero Cinderace, a Shifu single, and a Lando I with Terra, which is pretty crazy. So,
scary for sure.
As you said, the offense is great on this team, and it's supported quite well.
I would say this team might struggle a bit more with cleaning, with Lando not having RP anymore, and it's going to be forced into like some priority sucker stuff or some scarfing, but overall might be a bit weaker at cleaning than it is at breaking now. This team breaks really hard though. And then I'll add on, I think the bottom pick is where it kind of gets a bit weird with this team, a bit iffier. Like, the Magnezone, I guess, might have been looking at Electric options not like to them and picked up the Magnezone. Overall, I guess it still fulfills its role, but then Blissey here, I don't love. I don't think it does too much different to Mach in a meta like this. I respect the Cloth pick. It's kind of a funny guy, might do something. And then Lurantis just sucks this gen, losing Superpower and Knockoff. It's just fodder to so many different ones now. And when this team does struggle a bit more with these ground types already, it's not great that that's the grass mon.
Yeah, I agree. But then again, it's just Terragoth, I think, opens up just a lot for this team. Like, in theory, whatever weakness you have, Terragoth can trap it and 1v1 it.
Mm-hmm.
So
at least force Shed Shell, which when you have a lot of these offensive mons that want to force specific defensive iteming for them in the first place, like your Helmet Shifu or berries for Lando, stuff like that, then it's like, oh, do I pick this and check that mon, or do I get trapped by Goth? And it's Goth can even just check these offensive mons that are problematic with you and counter Terra type. Just he has a lot of options.
And he's got decent enough momentum to bring in the Goth as well. Like like Lando, Cinderace, they force switches quite easily, so you turn for free into Goth. Pretty easy. Yeah. Yeah, the only things I would change are the Blissey and Lurantis, and the Magnezone, I think. I don't think you need to trap Steel type with Magnezone. I don't see why you trap them.
It might depend what Electric was on the board at that point.
Yeah, it feels like it's just a good Electric type.
Anyways, I think
you can just get like a Jolteon. That thing's broken.
I
think that went undrafted.
Anyways, I think we can go into
okay, we can move on to number 3.
Yeah, number 3 is Odin and the Real Mareep. We have, coming up from Poison Point this season, he has Iron Bundle, Zapdos, Iron Moth, Slowbro, Mence, Serena, Fortress, Hippo, Koopa Unbound, Palma, and Wigglytuff. So right off the bat, Bundle is borked as shit. Insane mon. And Odin has a lot of these offensive kind of pivot pieces with the Zapdos Moth here, which are really good. And he's got solid backbone to support it all. In general, I think his offense and his defense are pretty cohesive, which I like. And do you want to carry on, Aggro?
Yeah, I just like how the team plays out with each other. It's got pretty good speed, or very good speed even. It's got Bundle being fast, Iron Moth, Palmot is 105, I think. Fast guy.
Yes, it is.
And I do like the Hooper in the back. I don't think people prep for Hooper very well, so if you know how to use Hooper, then I think it can do a lot of damage for you. And it can really open up doors for the other Pokemon, especially Terra, Mence, Bundle, and Moth, which will need a bit of chip, I think, to get really going.
I think he doesn't need the Hoopa, but I think in those matchups where he wants it, it'll be really good for him. And it did retain a lot of its moves, which was nice. But I think this team has insanely strong Terra users. Moth and Mence are both really good at snowballing, and they can Terra into like a coverage type or a resist type pretty well. And I like that. I think his hazard support is really solid with the removal and the setting. And in general, I think this team just has a lot of options, a lot of consistent play that are going to enable its threats to do well.
Yeah. And then one small thing is that Wigglytuff is the normal type on this, and then Hooper doesn't resist Ghost, so Ghost types might be problematic for this team. But there are ways out of that. I think you can Terra. Moth's got pretty good Spit F. Most of the ghosts are special, so you can Terra Moth into something that is beneficial, or Salamence as well. And then Hippowdon will beat the physical ones, so it's not the end of the world. But definitely not a great normal type to have in the back to rely on, as it were. And just for note, Palmot cannot use Revival Blessing, and Bundle cannot Terra as well, or use Booster Energy for that matter. Yeah, I do like Palmot on this team. I've not seen much usage of it in general, but it seems like a pretty cool Pokemon. It's got good dual stab and coverage, and Iron Fist.
Yeah, it's got solid util as well. I think it could definitely do some stuff for this team.
Yeah, so it'd be cool to see how it plays out. Okay, we can move on to the second team, coached by Toxic and his Big Dick Swanners. He's drafted Regieleki, Quack Quack, Enamorous Therian, Zarude, Talonflame, Uxie, Gudra, Bishop, Quillfish, Mudsdale, and Armarouge. And yeah, Terra uses Regieleki, Quack Quack. Wow.
I guess we can start there. I think so. Coming into this draft, with a lot of people with the Lecky were either like, this mon's completely broken, or they thought it was just a bait. And I think Toxic's kind of shown how the Lecky should be used. Everyone just thought, oh, it's going to Terra Ice for the ground type every matchup, or Terra Water, whatever it wanted for the ground type. But Toxic showed a lot of the versatility of this mon, using it as Terra E-Killer, which I thought was really good, and I think kind of sold me on the way that he built this team, this mon. And then Quax itself is also a really, really good Terra user. Being able to Aqua Step plus Moxie, it can get additional coverage for waters, or it can just overload with its stabs and get itself into a winning position. And I think those two Terra users are really, really strong, and I think Toxic did a great job getting a lot of these other pieces that have the momentum. They have the util, they have the right support for these pieces to get them into position.
Yeah, I do. I really like the not so much his top picks compared to the other people's top picks aren't as good, but the rest of his team is really well fleshed out. Zarude, great Pokemon that's retained a lot of what it could do last generation. Talonflame I don't think it can defog anymore, but it's still a decent fire type with Flame Body. Uxie's a great Pokemon. It stops a lot, gets hazards up. Bishop again can use Violite this generation, which is I think slightly slept on. I think it becomes quite bulky within a Violite, so something to look out for. I really like the Armarouge in the back as well. That Pokemon I think it's got quite a lot of potential going for it with weak armor and whatever setup it can do. And it's what's it called? Armor Cannon move.
Yeah, Fire type CC. I just think this team is really, really well built, and I just like the way the Toxic built it. A lot of these defensive options may look kind of weird or whatever, but I think that they check what they need to check, and they keep offensive pressure, or they can set their hazards, they can get momentum, they can do something, and get it to where he has a position for one of his offensive threats, with almost everything being an offensive threat here to break down the other team and set up his win con. And I think this team is going to be really, really good.
Yeah, and the momentum on this team is amazing as well. Like a lot of his top tier Pokemon get it. Yeah. Okay. We can move on to the top team.
And the top team
Number one.
By Ian MC and the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's got Garchomp, Sneasler, Corviknight, Rotom-Wash, Skeledirge, Gardevoir, Brambleghast, Tyranitar, Tauros, Electrotasui, and Frostmoth. So, I think this team has probably the best top pick out of them all. It's really well rounded with really great possibilities, so many options, so versatile. It can just do so much, and I think the Terra users are really what defines that. Garchomp can Terra with its type to give it good defensive ability, and it allows it to be both a better defensive mon with util, which this team can abuse, and also better SD user, which this team I think can enable with its momentum brigade and stuff. And then Dirge with Unaware can check basically anything you want it to check, and with its Terra type, which I think is great, and I just think really good Terra users.
Yeah, I think when we saw this team, it was the first team that we agreed on was really, really, really good. At least the top half of the team we thought was amazing. I really like Garchomp, Sneasler. I think that's an amazing core. They've got great synergy with each other. They take on quite a lot of types as well. And then Corviknight, Rotom-Wash is always going to be nice with each other. Nice Volt Turn core to bring in Garchomp and Sneasler. As you said, Skeledirge can do Terra Unaware things. I like Gardevoir on this as well. It gives a nice Scarf option outside of your top picks. And then after that, the team sort of goes slightly rogue, but I can understand most of the picks. Tauros is pretty niche. Is a nice normal type to take on certain ghosts. Frostmoth, you can boots. It's got its double Spadef ability, so it's good for stuff like Iron Bundle. I think is the main thing that a Frostmoth can take on reliably.
It can take on Bundle pretty well.
Bramblegrass, I'm not the biggest fan of that Pokemon. I think Corviknight can defog in every single game, apart from against the Golden Go, I guess.
But Bramble can't really help you there, so.
Yeah, I don't see Bramble's purpose, but it's there. It can do some funny things. It's got Strength Sap and decent speed and attack.
I just
T-Tar, when I first saw T-Tar, I wasn't sure how good it would be as a, and just in this gen in general, because of Terra typing into fighting types and killing it. But it'll take on stuff that can't Terra into a fighting type, I guess.
I think
it goes in the darks.
It doesn't have the pressure here to be forced to do a lot. I think some of these filler picks aren't the best, but I don't think that it matters in the grand scheme of things because this team is just so consistent. It's got such versatility, which is why I think we rate it as the best team, and it's done that through its Terra users, through having probably the best defog momentum in the meta, having great filler, great typing stuff, all that. I think this team just did a great job drafting.
Yeah, the top 5 you can bring comfortably every single week, I think.
I agree.
Like, you don't need to, yeah. Yeah, I guess that rounds out the Speed Boost Season 16 Power Rankings. I hope everyone enjoyed. I would like to remind all that these were just our brief opinions on your teams, so don't take anything to heart. And again, if you do have any complaints, please send them to Brandon.
Or me.
What's his name? Brandon LKR Moose. He's got like a line between his name. He'll be more than happy to explain to you about your teams.
Yeah. And then I'll also.
So does anyone else have any closing remarks?
I was gonna do a little closing remarks. I think that the coaches here are obviously in Speed Boost for a reason. They're good. I think even with some of them having these very weird drafts, that they're known for drafting like this, and that's why they're able to do well. It's their style, and there's a reason why you guys are here, and the reason why I'm in Quick Feet and Aggronauts is retired and only plays like on metas. Yeah. brotherquang's good. He's in Swarm. You'll see him there in a few seasons, but but I think that it all it's gonna come down to play from coaches in this division. We've seen weird drafts win all the time, and it's just about how you use them.
Yeah. I think as a final take-home message is the first William Shakespeare's quote, "Brevity is the soul of wit." I hope everyone who's watched this video in its entirety takes that to heart.
I don't know if that was the first
other than that,
one.
there's nothing more for me to say.
Aggronauts wasn't
No,
that the third
brevity,
one?
that's the very
That was
first.
the first.
Brevity is the soul of wit.
That was what started this.
Well, I have a closing message as well. I just noticed that the entire time that I was recording this, the activate Windows thing was on my screen. So
That's okay. You've got to activate your Windows next time.
I hope it doesn't show up. Oh my. All right, thanks for listening.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.